Modern humans contributed mtDNA to the Neanderthals. Or you are baffled, or you know for sure you are impregnated by consensus. In any case, it is what ancient DNA research on several Neanderthal and also Denisovan fossils proves us. Now let us dive into some consequences. First, let's check out the very little that consensus tells us about it. From a haplotype tree, we know that Neanderthals do not come from Africa, but from the Americas instead, just as the ancestral markers tell us all along, because Neanderthals have DNA identical to ours, and are only differently methylated, or in other words have other genes knocked out by hybridization. Yes, you hear that right. In this case, modern humans and Neanderthals are genetically hybrids, and that has nothing to do with the by consensus hypothesized and assumed interbreeding. That hypothesis obviously is extremely improbable to be true, and scientifically proven wrong on several occasions. This interbreeding is not only improbable to be true, also amongst many other scientific proofs, the essential ancestral markers prove us the supposed Neanderthal DNA fraction comes from the ancestor they clearly indicate, and that you also can see with your own eyes by means of the strongest evidence, which is obviously the whole genome haplotype tree, that is systematically neglected by consensus. This clearly because what it is proves is essential for science, but is destructive for consensus. Further, if it had been true that modern humans contributed mtDNA to the Neanderthal, this contribution has died out. All humans that provingly lived in close proximity with Neanderthals have died out. Rani's 13 is only one of them. Like the woman from Zlati K, Rani's 13 left no surviving descendants. Further, if they had not died out, they would most probably have been wiped out in the by ancient DNA-proven population turnover events from or rather until around 4,500 years ago. Among others, these population turnover events from or rather until around 4,500 years ago are related to the Bell Beaker culture, as well as to the later Celts. Population turnover events, David Rye, 2021. If the supposed Neanderthal DNA fraction in modern humans does not come from interbreeding, it obviously comes from somewhere else. Now hopefully we are all wide awake, let us dive into it. It's from an early out of African Homo sapiens that went extinct. The supposed Neanderthal DNA in modern humans is from an early out of African Homo sapiens that went extinct. That is the little that consensus tells us. But the common ancestor of the Neanderthals is at least 600,000 years old, and the mitochondrial Eve DNA we find in Africans is only 200,000 years old. So the mitochondrial Eve DNA found in Neanderthals is not from humans that at some point will deliver mtDNA L first to mitochondrial Eve, and only next to Africa and consequently to African Eve. That is so because, as we all very well know, Neanderthals never had a genetic impact on sub-Saharan Africa. Further, Neanderthals were not suited for sub-Saharan Africa, but that is for later. Now there are two possibilities left. A. Mitochondrial Eve got mtDNA L from Neanderthals. B. Mitochondrial Eve got mtDNA L from modern humans. If it is A, then mitochondrial Eve and also African Eve are not modern humans, but non-modern human hybrids instead. If it is B, these modern humans are not African and never reached Africa. This is so because the mtDNA L that pops up in modern Africans is hundreds of thousands of years younger than the mtDNA L that pops up in the Neanderthals. We of origin for existence argue in favor of the case A, where mitochondrial Eve got her mtDNA L from Neanderthals, and we will give ample evidence for this. One of our arguments of this will be that some of the oldest Neanderthal did not carry yet mtDNA L, but an mtDNA that is closer to the Denisovans instead. Further, we will argue that Neanderthals at some point got their mtDNA L from mtDNA D, most probably from mtDNA D4H3A. This and the consequences of it will be for our next video.